Hello. Some of you may know me because I've been writing extensively about architecture. I'm Samir Shukla. I think the last piece I wrote about that architect's Kacha has maybe hurt some sentiments as I could sense from yesterday's webinar on the Architects Act. I'm not completely unrelated to architecture as maybe that Barb that was pointed at me suggested. I am from School of Architecture, Ahmedabad, 1984 batch. I've written extensively about architecture, Architects Act, the kind of confusions that we have lived with for such a long time. And I've tried extensively even to try and discuss this matter with COA in the era where it was a very robust body which was impossible to kind of talk to. Anyway, all that is past. I don't think I'm really keen on discussing that. But when I saw that webinar and I realized the kind of conversations that architects are having today, I feel that I would like to clarify some of these confusions which people have about the law. So, though I am qualified in law also, but let me not make it legal. Let me, yeah, if you're, I think I'm aiming this at young architects because you don't understand what all is happening. And, I think at your age, I don't think anybody has time. So, I would make it very simple for you to understand where the problem is. So if you go in the history, the problem it's India. So problems are basically systemic, political, personal, those kind of issues. But you go back in the history, the original problem was between Council of Architecture and All India Council for Technical Education. Both of them were fighting over who will control architectural education, and IITs had a lead in having those colleges which taught architecture. This issue was always confused. Thankfully, it is settled now. The court has ruled in favor of council architecture, but that is where this confusion started. And the real bone of contention that is today that really matters are two very distinct questions, two very distinct confusions for which architects have to become honest. So the first confusion is that is architect more than an engineer. So the problem on the ground, the technical issues, why you keep losing in the court, and I keep writing every time we lose and we still go to the court and lose, is that we have been from day one trying to say that architects can do engineering, and as we have an act which is allowing us a statutory position, we are recognized as a profession like the remaining three, the doctor, the advocate, and the chartered accountant. We have been using it as a leverage to kind of say that we can do everything and we are really, we should be allowed to take all these scopes of work. That is what we mention in the scope of work as council architecture also. So that is where engineers have been very uncomfortable with, and that was the original frontier where the war was being fought. So Architects Act was an act, and it's an act of parliament. It's a very powerful tool that was in the side of the architects. Engineers have been struggling since ages to have their Engineers Act. Somehow we have not understood the need of it, and that is still not enacted. But they had some other instruments, mainly the National Building Code, and that is a book, but it's a very powerful book that they have been throwing at architects since ages. So if you look at the last revision that they made, they have kind of positioned engineers above architects. So the core problem is that from day one, architects are saying that we can do engineering. So engineers have started saying that we can do architecture, and these matters have been going in the court, and court obviously would laugh at it when architects go and say that okay, we only can do engineering. When there are such lakhs of engineers coming out every year with highly specialized qualification, and then you still pretend that you are the only one who can do engineering. They are not going to listen to you. So that is what is happening. So that is the simplest matter in terms of the legal issue that you face. So you try using all kind of complicated languages, and these amendments that you're talking about is maybe one more attempt, and maybe I don't know. We are talking about some kind of talking to MPs and all, but architects are a very small community. I hope you're not going to try the number game. So, that is where we think that maybe we have patronage and we'll get away with getting this act enacted in a way where the profession of architecture or the scope of architecture is defined in a more holistic way and we have a better control over our fate. Uh, Let me get very honest with you. The Neither the Supreme Court nor the Parliament is naive. If we are going to try usurping the turf from engineers, they are not going to sit silently. Any attempts of revision of the act that would result in exclusivity of architects doing the job that they are doing currently, the engineering job they're doing currently, is not going to take you very far. Somebody will either file a suit or the act itself would have find a lot of resistance on the ground because obviously engineers are there. And God forbid, but if you look at the seminar of yesterday and we say we'll quietly get this done and we'll surreptitiously manage this amendments being passed. No, I don't think that's frankly not fair. That is what I actually stand for. And I don't think it is, maybe it is practically possible because we have some kind of superpower at this point of time. But otherwise, I doubt if that is going to be happening. So the core problem that we have to address is that should architects continue doing engineering or should we say that we do something else? So from aeons, I have been trying to define the scope of architecture to be different than scope of engineering. I've been requesting council again and again to sit with the engineers body and divide it in way where they also would feel comfortable. They would also would consent to it, and then maybe you can go to the court and say, okay, there is a confusion, but both these bodies have come together and we have concluded that this is the way we'll divide our professions and this is how we'll work. And then maybe the court could be more conducive to the kind of proposal that we have about the definition of architecture. I would not get into the legal part of it, but I'll just point out something that I have in mind since a very long time. I've written a lot, so you can look up where these things are coming from. So I say an architect's training is all about integrating human needs to a building. An engineer's training is all about integrating technology with a building. So this is maybe the simplest way to kind of define the division, and this is actually legally possible because you can have a taste of it. Okay, law at times likes it when you can taste it. So uh, if you really look at the National Building Code and what it has done today in terms of proposing the team concept, that is a kind of integrated body where architects work with engineers as equals, this can accommodate this with the kind of understanding that architects are first amongst the equals. So instead of becoming the lead and the director and the master and whatever it is that is being there, we should look at architects as first amongst the equals from one very, very rational argument that buildings are designed for human beings. So a building which is not designed for any human use maybe can be best left to engineers, like boiler room and all. Architects don't need to get into it. But any building that is going to be a humans using it, architect should have a priority because obviously human being is a priority. So it's a kind of say let's say there is a staircase that is being designed and structural engineer comes and says, okay, at 1.5 headroom, 1.5 meter headroom, I'm getting the most efficient structural design. An architect would say that, look, 1.5 meter and a human being can't pass underneath, so you have to make it 2 meter. So now there is a decision and there is a conflict and it is being resolved in the favor of architect because buildings are human centric entities. So that is the way to go about dividing this engineering and architecture. You can craft it better than the signing of the drawings and all. But again, I would not really bother to get into it beyond a certain point because that amounts to say consultation with the engineers and that would amount to a lot of other proposals that would come in. So I would leave it at that. But the second part, which is now I think emerging to be more important, and that is where there is an issue of morality, there is an issue of ethics, there is an issue of social role that architect has to play. So that is what I would focus on. So if you really look at the current scenario, we have very clear problem that just like architect is an engineer or not, we have a problem because we are not able to say if architect is a professional or a businessman. So what is a professional and what is a businessman? So a professional is like a doctor who has a supra cliental role. That means he is working for the benefit of the society, for the greater good. So some agencies like doctors or lawyers are identified because they can't serve a client purely from the selfish perspective of the client. Their master is the social, greater good. So this different model, which is called a professional, is created for them that allows them to be extension of the state. They can do, quasi work on behalf of the state, like, verifying if something is right or not, certify. So it's a very empowered position. It's a statutorily recognized understanding, and it obviously means that you are not subjected to the market forces. So that is the original understanding. If you look at Architects Act, if you look at the forefathers who created this act, they looked at architect as somebody who is going to be a moral guardian of the built habitat. But I'm sure if I look out of my window, no city in India has got any built habitat that is lawful, or good for human beings. That means that whatever role was assigned to architects, that was not possible for architects to fulfill for a lot of other reasons, practical reasons. All the other agencies are far too powerful. Bill does not listen to you, government doesn't listen to you, nobody listens to you. So you are in a situation where your professionhood is not really resulting into much, and that's a reality on the ground. So what it translated into is that architects ended up becoming businessmen. Now what is the business like? What is the way? What governs the business? So business have no morality. Business has market forces working on it. So if an architect is a professional, he's got morality, he's got statutory backing, he has got all kind of, authority that is bestowed upon him by the state. If he's a businessman, then obviously he has to accept whatever is happening. He has to look at the market forces. You can survive, you can die, whatever can happen. So the cusp that we were once sitting on was AICTE COA. Then we have another cusp that, thanks to COA's proactive desire to become engineers, was engineers and architects, and now we have the third and the largest cusp. So are we professionals or not? Is the question that architects have to answer. Now I have been thinking about this since almost a decade. I've studied everything that engineers have done. I've studied the practices that are going on in the world about these kind of things, and I've realized that we are slowly emerging into an era where that era of masters and Le Corbusier and Louis Kahn and all that is almost over. Now people are going to be doing large projects. There will be a lot of, integrated services. Large scale of activities would have to be undertaken, and that would demand a completely different kind of architectural practice. That the traditional mom and pop kind of, uh, we do our drawings and, we are painstakingly doing everything. That is maybe no longer the viable model for most of the people. Yes, that model would remain, but there is a demand of a different kind of architect, and that demand is far greater. And whenever there is demand, people will kind of, uh, practices would emerge in that direction. So I think the time has come to accept this duality, but you can't accept it in the way that we are trying to do, that we will have our cake and eat it too. So I feel that the way forward that we have to now look at is to divide the profession of architecture under the very aegis of council of architecture, because I would not feel that if you'll be safer if you let go of that empowerment that is there. But architects would, so in like in sports you have a similar model that some people turn pro. So some people play the game for fun of it, fun, they have a different, and some people play for money. So architects also should have this dual double kind of registration. So there could be a set of architects who want to remain professionals, who want to have the statutory authority, they want to, design buildings and, certify them and be that way. That's fine. There is a room for it. But COA should start registering the other kind of architects who have the qualification but are aspiring to become businessmen. And under this, COA has to start developing the newer business models. See, I'll give you one very, very simple example for you to understand. The COVID has changed the scenario, but a startup kid with 1 year of IT company that is making loss, would say my company is 20 crore rupees and he would pitch for it and he would sell 10% of it for 2 crore rupees. And that's absolutely possible. There's nobody gets really surprised with it. And you could be an architect with 20 year of practice, with a receipt of 3 4 crore rupees, but you can't say this is the value of my company and I'm offering my equity to somebody at I can't unlock you can't unlock the wealth that is there, even though you created that wealth. And that is because of the kind of model that we have opted for in council architecture as professionals. So professionals are not allowed to do business. Professionals have to play on their own name. So architects have to be either standalone architects or should have a company or a partnership only with, not a company but a partnership or LLP only with the other architects. So that is an hindrance that is disallowing you to have business partners, disallowing you from unlocking your wealth. And obviously that is not going to work. So there has to be other category whereby all these different business models are incorporated and recognized by council architecture, where architects can partner with engineers, non-engineers, can seek pure equity from the market, pure borrowing from the market, basically do any kind of business model, but still they are recognized for the scope of work that they are entering. So this is the way forward that you will have to accept. Currently what we are trying to do is something very confusing. I think we are still trying to hold on to the professional model, and we are thinking that we can extrapolate it into some kind of business model without losing the critical essence of it. That is not possible. You can't be a professional and a businessman at the same time, so you got to make a choice. But yes, if the title is available and if you want to honor it, then keep it that way. So these are the two areas that I would really like to, have an understanding amongst the young architects, because there are scenarios that are emerging around you that are not what we confronted when we were young. See, India had hardly, when I joined School of Architecture, Ahmedabad in 1984, I don't think there were even 20 colleges. And today you have tons of architects coming out, and the scenario is completely different. So you need different kind of models which are bigger, more comprehensive, which is allowing these kind of activities. And there is another threat that you have to realize, that you leave it this way in the confusion that you have a situation where you have virtually 10 times more engineers being produced every year. So they would swarm the market, which they already done. Currently anybody can do architecture, and these litigations have not taken you anywhere other than this point where it is now confirmed that anybody can do architecture. So you don't have much of a, there's no time. You have to sit down and resolve this. So I propose something very simple. I think if it is possible, best is to not try this amendment route in the way we are trying, but go back to the Supreme Court and ask Supreme Court that, look, you virtually squashed the act. The act has lost its meaning completely because of your verdict, which is allowing anybody to practice architecture. But obviously, when the act was enacted, the parliament had some sense. Parliament realized that real estate sector in India is lawless. It needed a moral guardian. It needed an empowered person who can prevent these lawless activities to happen, and that is why the act was there. So the Supreme Court will have to now rise to protect the spirit of the act, and that is the way maybe you get a better answer of this question. I would, you know, I would not like to comment on the process that we are indulging into correcting the act. That is completely what you call legally an entitlement of council architecture, and council architecture should do what it is best fitting. But please understand that act is by a parliament, and it takes really really long time for you to change anything. Okay, engineers have been trying to have engineers act since 60 years, so please understand that it's not that easy. And previous attempts, if you look at the amendment of this act that were attempted by the government, was actually to set aside the council. So I've already exceeded 20 minutes. About 20 minutes, I think I'm losing most of the audience. But then I'll now get into the last part, which is not of my great interest, but as it is part of the discussion, I would address it. And that is this concept of exit exam. So, see, the world is changing dramatically with technologies arriving. Education would be the first thing to change. India is going into a new education policy for the nation, and that education policy is basically going to say that teaching people any which way is the prerogative of the academies. We should have some way to decide the quality of people. So exit exam is a wonderful idea because anybody can be taught anywhere. It is very difficult to control things on the ground. Council can't go and sit in every class and see if their students are being taught properly or not. But council can take an examination, and that would be kind of an entry into the profession. Now that's a wonderful idea. I think there's nothing wrong with it, but there is one little problem. Architecture, as we are trying to talk about, as a very very sensorial, artistic, holistic kind of activity. How do you taste that ability with one exit exam? See, we look at the exit exams that other professions are having. They are basically just checking the technical informedness. So if you are a chartered accountant, how much do you know the law? How well do you know the law? Because there is no subjectivity in those professions. So those are very testable qualities. But architects being what they are, I believe that it's going to be a very very difficult proposition to have a single exit exam which can which can derive all these fine things about a human being who should be making buildings. So it's a difficult task. I think there is going to be a requirement of revisiting this concept and integrating it with either maybe a prolonged office internship, because it's very hands-on activity designing. You learn by doing it. So I believe that even if a council loses control over the quality at the college level, we can have it reintroduced by responsible senior fraternity members who would be mentors of the incoming architects. So if there is a change that is really required in architectural education, that is increased participation by the senior architects. They should feel responsible for the people coming in their own fraternity, and that is the way maybe you can have this exit exam integrated with prolonged practice to have a meaningful outcome of what all that we have. Now, I would really like to sum up this entire thing with where this is coming from. See, I am interested about this, but I'm writing about this not because I'm keen. I love to make fun of architects, or it is coming very deep from the heart. I really like this profession. I have really understood that it is the core profession. Human habitat is central to the human existence. The kind of cities that got built around us, the kind of builders that appeared, the kind of real estate that we ended up having. I saw it and I was deeply anguished. And I have really tried over the years to make sense out of all this. And my finding over the years have been that architects have not come together to stand up for what their qualification is for. You qualified to guard the profession, to guard the morality, to have a social role, and that is why you're gifted with an act. You are gifted with an act, while there are very few people who have that kind of luxury. So the fact that we had this act in 1972 and all that we tried doing it was to use it to usher up the work from engineers was something that has been always troubled me. We have to clean our hearts. We have to if you go to the court with a clean hand. Let us understand that architects can't really design complicated structures. Our understanding of civil engineering is very rudimentary. We are not engineers, or we are not better than engineers in engineering. They are specialized people. They have a role to play. So why do we fight with them and make this scenario in such a way that today we have absolute lawlessness in the construction sector? India doesn't can't we can't claim we have greatly designed cities. We can't claim we have greatly designed buildings. We have no control over the built environment because we have no moral authority left. So this is something of a greater good. And that's what architects are for. My school taught me that architecture was not about building something. It was all about doing something socially critical, socially important. A building was a social act. That is what school of architecture once made us realize, made us feel, made us think about. So that is where this is coming from. This is not coming from any desire to make fun of architects. So I don't write, some kind of articles just to bother people, and nor am I somebody who's not informed about it. Yes, I've spent almost 20 years to figure this out. I strongly feel that if you're a young architect, then you have to ask yourself this honest question: how much of your curriculum is really there that can claim that you can do engineering? I think if you're honest, you will say, no, we can't do engineering. But you are really trained to design buildings for human beings. And what engineers are claiming today is an equal lie because their curriculum does not teach them how to design buildings for human beings. Designing for human beings means understanding culture, understanding all kind of, you know, complex phenomena which are not numerically defined. It's a very sensorial act. So that is not, that can't be taught by the curriculum that engineers have. That can be taught through the studios and designings and interactions and travels and all that architects do. So the the fact that architects have played this card, they are facing this from the engineers. But I'm sure that anybody who really wants to get a building design would love to get it designed by an architect because architect knows how a human being will use that building. That was our USP, but that USP has been lost. And as we lost that USP today, bulk of the construction happening across India is done by engineers. So I'm wishing all the best to Council of Architecture to have these amendments passed. I, if you can get the definition of architectural scope of work in that introduced into it, do look at my, my request or my proposal of defining it as integrating human needs to a building vis-a-vis engineers uh, scope as integrating technological needs into a building. That is maybe one of the ways to have this division and end of this war between brothers in arms. And then I think take a very serious call about where do we want to go as a profession, because this country is not going to wait. There are going to be massive projects ahead. These people complaining about Central Vista and getting jittery about the scale of project should understand that the world has done something exponentially larger, and that is where India is heading. So today we hardly have any practices which can really accommodate to the larger needs that are just around the corner. 6 months in 1 year down the line, there'll be projects of such scale that there'll be very few practices other than some metros which can cater to it. India need hundreds of large practices. So you got to get your act together. Got to find that you don't lose the professional essence. If you want to make architects, businessmen, entrepreneur, people who do big things, then you have to also ensure that they are kept within the fraternity. So some amount of morality is retained, some amount of ethical control is retained over them, and that is the way forward. But I think as far as I am personally concerned, uh, I have my blog which you can look up where some of the more detailed out articles are there on that. Which in this under this YouTube thing I will be putting up the address, and then you can look at my Times of India blog where I have written a lot on this subject. Get extremely informed, because if you are not informed and if you're young, there's a great possibility that you may squander this opportunity if it is really there. you know if this opportunity is not handled properly by the young architects, it would end up being handled to some of the vested interests who may want the practice to become something else than what it is. So let's hope architecture doesn't lose its essence. India retains architects as moral guardians of the construction and real estate industry. Architecture is a wonderful branch to be qualified in. It's a great way of life. I wish all the best to all the young kids who are going to be architects, and I hope that they come into a world where this entire profession is better controlled, better defined, and India does some wonderful work. So God bless India, God bless architecture, and God bless Council of Architecture, even though I don't know what it thinks of me. Thank you.